Hi, hello boys, how are you?
Very good, how are you?
I'm alright, doing not too bad.
Aye.
I'm good.
I sometimes start the podcast off with what I call the most important question of all.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, I thought, how do you feel about the Strokes making your song?
Oh, aye.
Oh, bad decisions.
He's released a good tune, just the second best bad decisions.
Aye, it's still good, it's just not the best bad decisions.
See, to be fair, man, there's got to be another tune out there called Bad Decisions. We were
There's
there.
got to be plenty. We wasn't even called Bad Decisions for us. It was called something else.
It was called Off-White
Called
originally.
Off-White and we changed it to that. But
It's
So-
called Off what? Off what?
Off-White.
Why was it called Off White?
So kind of, if you're hanging, like the complexion of your skin.
Is Off White?
Aye.
yeah,
What is a sheet?
white as a
Aye,
sheet, kind of
yeah.
pale bit beige as well. But I think we changed it when we recorded it.
I think it was Johnny's idea, wasn't it? He said,
But it was weird. It was definitely a weird one because someone said to me, "Oh, Strokes are releasing a tune called Bad Decisions." I was like, "What?" So I was wondering what it would be like. Obviously, the songs are like.
It's a good tune to be fair.
It
It's a
is,
bit kind of
it is.
retro.
Yeah, it reminds me more of kind of like, do you like kind of Spice more kind of like synthy stuff, like Voids and stuff. It sounds a
Yeah.
bit different to. I've been listening a lot to the first few albums recently, so it definitely sounds a lot different to that. Aye, that's good.
What do you make of the kind of the newer Strokes stuff? I mean, you got when was Come Then? Was it like 7 years ago now?
Yeah, 2013 or something. Yeah,
Some alright tunes on it to be fair.
no, definitely. I think we really liked Angles as well.
See, I'm not a massive
A lot of
Angles.
good tunes
I'm
on
not
that.
a massive Angles fan. That's probably my least kind of
Yeah,
favourite.
I just because it was still kind of like a lot of it was still very heavily guitar based. I liked that. Under the Cover of Darkness, I thought that was great.
That is a good tune to be
that's a
fair.
great song.
There's another good one on it. Is it Taken for a Fool?
Yeah.
It's a good tune.
Yeah. I've just been pure obsessed with it. I've been listening to I hadn't really listened to the third album that much, so I've been listening to a lot of that.
Aye, First Impressions are.
Yeah, first impression.
Probably one of the best ones, yeah.
There's one song in particular, I can't remember the name yet. It's a really synthy one.
Like a kind of deep track on the album.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but
I really like it. Do you know Eyes of the World off the album?
I'll have a wee look just in case, but it's one's like for me it was it kind of reminds me more of this Bad Decisions. It's like more kind of
In that vein.
yeah. Ask Me Anything. That's what it is. Just remember
That is a good song.
Yeah, I've been listening to that a lot. But I just really love the kind of first three albums, especially the first two. The first two are very similar, I guess, in a lot of ways. But
Have you seen them live before?
nah, never. I feel like a lot of those bands I haven't seen them. A lot of the ones that I feel heavily inspired by, I've never seen them. So a lot of them I won't get to see. Do you know what I mean? Especially like older bands and stuff. Seen Arctic Monkeys, thankfully.
Was that a
But-
Transmit or?
And that was at Transmit, yeah.
Probably the best gig of my life.
Oh mate, same. It was such a long day as well. I was wearing all black that day. I was wearing like a black t-shirt, black jeans.
That's a
shoes. I
bold
was like,
move.
"What am I doing that?" It was about 25 degrees or something, and I remember like I think the sun was just starting to go down as Arctic Monkeys came on. I was like, oh thank God, because it was just horrible, man.
It felt like it took ages to go down, and once it started,
It
like,
did.
Pretty
Man.
sure I get sunstroke, man. It's
I think
positive.
we did, but we all get separated at different points as well. We were all together as like a kind of bigger group.
so you guys are just back from London. When did you get back from there?
When was that?
When?
Were you not down at your manager's flat writing tunes?
Oh no,
That's
right,
in Glasgow.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
So
he
he was
splits-
down in London.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
lives in Glasgow and London, so like he will spend his time between Glasgow
Mhm.
and London, just depending on what he needs to do. So for some stupid reason, he left us the keys to his flat. Rab's practically moved in, man. Like that's his base now. Like,
Aye.
as soon as he get the opportunity to move it, he's it's his man. He's
He's like,
jumped right on top of that, man.
Yeah.
He's made himself right at home. But we've just been in there quite a lot last week, man.
So the album's been wrote in Southside and Shawlands.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of good because it's just a kind of space for us to. We don't like the way we've wrote in the past. It's when we sit down and do it like in the practice space or in the studio with Marshall, we're all together. But it's not often that all four of us are present when we're writing stuff together. The way that we kind of normally flesh out ideas. So actually being able to sit the four of us and do stuff, it's been really productive. That.
But your drummer you say he wrote his first tune as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
he would and he basically just kind of like vocalised all it is. He was like, he had an idea, he had all of it, like structure, he had all the structure in his head. So we'd get to the next part and we'd be like, what do you think? And he would like tell us what he wanted to add to it, and then we were able to kind of take that and transpose it.
He was
to
kind of
guitar and
communicating
bass.
it to you, and you
Aye,
were.
man, he had like the bass line sorted, especially at the beginning, and it's very it's very
man.
heavy
It's
for
very
us.
heavy.
Like we were sitting doing the tones and stuff, and we went for a really jaggy and like really kind of thick distorted bass line. we were messing with guitar tones and we found this one that was really like metal sounding, like I don't know, like Metallica or something. And we were like, oh no, we can't do that. And then we're like, why would we not?
Proper
Like,
heavy.
why would we not? Well, it is, but now listening back, it's got our kind of structure in there. It's got like, imagine once the lyrics and stuff get done, it'll still be like a kind of standard song for us, but it's definitely like the heaviest thing. It's got like a breakdown at the end there, like a proper breakdown. So it's definitely got, especially people that are kind of fans of that music will kind of see what we've done when we've kind of messed about that way. But it's exciting, especially for him, because he always writes all the drums for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we can tell him what to play. His ability's so far ahead of ours that it's like, I don't know, we could probably play like a 4/4 on the drums or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could show him I could probably tell him one of my ideas, but it's better just to leave it to him, because he's an absolute animal on the drums. So it's just kind of leave things to him. But for him to have the rest of the idea for a tune and have so much, he's been thinking about it for a long time. So it's good that he's been able to get that done, because usually it's just been him chipping in with the drums most of the time.
I didn't realise he was like a mad artist as well. Like,
Aye,
always,
man,
like
he does a
woodworking
lot.
and
He's
stuff
been
like
like
that.
that for like since
you're in like first year of high school, man.
Like, you know, you get like in school where people do like self-portraits of themselves and then they all get hung up on the wall, and I think it was just like we were in like third year or something, so obviously everyone's up there and you could see people who had done some and there was slight resemblance. Some of them are pure funny looking, you're like, oh my god, look at that. But Kyle's was like this pure like
Masterpiece.
like draftsman thing, man. It was all like smoky and all that, and it was like quite trippy as well. It was just like so far ahead of everything else that was like up there, and he'd done all this really cracking stuff in school, and he's done all this like, he's kind of like evolved over time and done more stuff. He could probably tell you more about it than we could, but he's got a real talent for it, so it helps it for us with the band and stuff as well. Like, he's designed most of the artwork with David. Him and David kind of work in tandem with Photoshop and like drawing stuff up. It works well that way.
Hopefully it doesn't work out too well for him and he doesn't patch us to go and be a mad famous artist.
Well, I was saying to him, it's like Ringo
Next
Starr.
Banksy.
Ringo Starr takes pictures of himself on his Mac. Like, do you know, you can get like the filter that's the 4 colours.
Yeah.
He does a peace sign. He prints it out on a canvas and he
Sells
sells them
it.
for like $2,000. I was like to Kay, I was like, if we ever make it that big, like, you can live like that for the rest of your life. Just, you know what I mean, giving people handwritten things in public and charging them for it. Do you know what I mean? But he's sold a couple of these things already and he's made a good bit of money off it. So it's good.
Deservedly so as well, man.
Yeah,
because
it's
They are
insane
impressive,
work.
yeah.
He worked hard for his art degree, and it was a lot of stress. Obviously, as it would be for anybody who's trying to juggle being in a band and working and studying and stuff. I mean, I feel lucky. I've been studying since I was like 17 or something, so it's I can even go back to essay writing and all that kind of stuff, man. Like, that's so
It's well gone,
so
man.
far beyond. I don't even have got the thumb strength to hold a pencil. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Was there anything you did like in school? Or you just hate that?
man, I really wanted to. I mean, I never thought I was going to be in a band when I left school, especially when I first left school. I wanted to go and I'd done social sciences, so I wanted to be. My favourite subject was history, and I kind of liked English as well, and I didn't mean music, but I really liked history, and I wanted to go and do something with that. And I don't know. It's one of the things that I kind of immediately found when I got to college. The kind of change in the atmosphere, the way it was a lot more serious. There wasn't as many people that were just there for power.
Having a
Do you know what
laugh,
I mean?
yeah.
In social sciences, it's quite quiet. Do you know what I mean? It was for me anyway. It was just like, and I was 17. I was the youngest in the class, so I just felt like it wasn't for me. But I think in school we both done standard good music anyway, and we had a laugh with that. Like, it was pretty much the class was like there wasn't really the need for to teach anybody really in the class how to play instruments. Really, most of the people
Everyone
in the
already
class
had something.
had
yeah.
something they could play, yeah. And then there was maybe some people that were faffing about. There was boys that we knew that were playing like glockenspiel and like recorder just for like they were just there for the power. Do you know what I mean? They were just there for a laugh. But for us it was good for us because our music teachers would let us go up to the music rooms and play at lunchtime and stuff, just mess about, which is kind of like where this all kind of started at the very beginning, because it was people like me and Dave and Kyle, people that we knew that also played instruments, and we got up there with ambitions of being in a band, do you know what I mean, but never thinking of that as being a serious thing. I don't think there was.
Aye, because you like a wee thing the 3 years before. Rab kind of got involved like a couple of years before. Or
We would
something.
mess about. We would at least when we were kind of staying in contact or getting back in contact with Kyle, we would. Anytime we'd go to rehearsal space to practice songs, he would be the drummer that we would have. So
that you would go to, even if we stopped talking to him for a couple of months or however long it was, man. If any of us were planning on going to a practice studio, he was always a go-to.
when he did come in with the Dunts, it was like it started with me. Well, Rab had started it to begin with, obviously, and we had other people that were filling in the gaps at that point. So we had Anthony, who was in Heavy Rapids, and then we had our pal Josh, who makes techno music now. But that's what it started, and even at that time, I wasn't really too sure about it. I think I was totally sure when when Kyle and David came in, it just felt like
It kind of clicked a wee bit.
it clicked. And Kyle, like because Kyle is so proficient at drums, it's like he hadn't done it in ages. He hadn't actually been practicing drums and that, and he kind of fell away from it. So it was us kind of like playing with the band with him, but he was starting to. He just always had that ability in there, but it was just as soon as he came back and it just started transforming other songs, like they all just started getting this energy about them. That they just felt we kind of lacked this togetherness or a cohesiveness.
We wrote Birds and the Bees when Josh was still there,
and G53 as well, so we were playing them, but they just had this. There was something that was like the driving bass and drums that we have now. I don't think it was as present until we started sorting things out that way.
Was the stuff you were writing last week, is that kind of similar to the things that came out last year? Or?
I think
One or two,
there's
maybe.
a few in there. There's a few in there. Like if you're like with Bad Decisions and Maron, it's like I think people can maybe hear a wee bit of a progression there or a change there. I think that these songs maybe are like that, but we still feel like it's a fresh take as well. We always feel like whatever we're doing, whatever the most recent song is we're doing, always feels like the newest or freshest thing to us, because we always try and, as much as we've developed a sound, we always try and kind of push it out a wee bit and try and change things a wee bit or just keep things fresh really. But I'd say there's been a mixture with the songs we're doing just now. If you were to like listen to all of them in a row, you would be like, that's a bit kind of
But like 1975 when everything's a wee bit different.
Scattered about, but we're just trying to find what we like, and I think we're not too worried about totally like throwing things out and changing everything. We've got enough songs out there that's about an album's worth, but we still feel like the sound that we've got now, we're still learning that. So I feel like the songs they'll definitely be, it won't be radically different, but it will be at least
a continuing progression.
Yeah, we'll be able to demonstrate what we've learned. We're trying to teach ourselves a lot more now. I think beginning maybe we had a certain amount of skills, and there's only so much we could do with that, but now we're trying to learn more about music itself and how you write it. Just try and take influence from a lot of places as well, so you've always feel like you've got something, a reason to make music or a reason to write lyrics or anything. You always feel like you need to have a purpose to do it. I feel like if I don't have one, then I can't really get anything out of it. That's why for years I used to just learn to play songs. I used to love learning songs that I liked just because I thought it was fun to play it. I feel that kind of sense of accomplishment when you learn it. Now it's like I don't really know any other songs because I'm constantly just trying to write more stuff for the Dunts, so it's good that that's became the case. I'm excited about that.
I mean, like the stuff you put out last year almost was even like I don't want to say a step up in production, but you're doing something quite different with it, a bit more interesting. Had that been coming for a while, do you think?
No, I didn't think that was a conscious decision when the song was like, I think Bad Decisions was the turning point where it became different. So when I first started writing that, there was never anything about production in that. It's still the first time we played it, and we were in Jim's old studio at that time, mind. First time we played it, it still sounded like an old Dunts song. It was only when we went in with Johnny and Marshall that things started to get a bit wild. I think we started bevying pretty early in the day for that recording session, so like by halfway through it, man, we were all feeling a wee bit more open to new ideas and trying different things, man. And
I think the key was that we had parts there. It was one of those songs that had all these parts. We had done a lot of writing on it. David had this idea of the song, and we'd managed to write so much for it. I think it lends itself well once you've got all these at least sections of the song. You can then play about with the dynamics of it once it comes to production. But I think there was at least maybe a conscious effort to. The song itself kind of sounded like it could be like a progression. It just already felt like it was something that was like it had acknowledged what we'd done.
I mean, it's some of
before.
your strongest songwriting. So if you're gonna take some risks with it, it feels like the song to do it on, because you've kind of got that really solid, firm bedrock.
Well, like the last bit, like with like the end bit with Rab, which I think we had described on somebody commented when it get played on Jack Saunders' show that it sounded like something like Busted. So we were like, aye, that's kind of
a wee
like
bit
what
kind of
we
early
thought.
2000s,
With the way they jumped back in, and even just they dropped into like the
some of the stuff you do with the drums on that.
Aye,
drums and the keys,
some cool effects.
Yeah, I think it's like, and then we had the chance to like obviously with Hey as well. We had the chance to do all that, so it's like it's just feels like another part of like our weaponry. Do you know what I mean? A part of our arsenal we've got is if we're able to do that, but it also kind of leaves it like we're considering with the album. It's like, do we then also have some songs that are more traditional? Like we've went so much in the kind of direction of like using stuff like not going through like not doing room recordings, going into the Kemper. Do you know what I mean? Like
I guess you want the album to be cohesive, don't you?
Yeah. You want to be able to like. It just depends on like. You don't want to have things too like inconsistent. You want to have like a consistency there at least with your ideas and the sound. But I think it's definitely going to give us room to experiment a wee bit as well.
Yeah. You mentioned Hey Yeah.
Yeah.
As well. Who first came in with the idea for that? I'm interested
that's me
how
and
that.
Dave.
how
It
that
was me and
popped in
David
your
were
head.
sitting and we were like, right, we're playing Transmit. We're like, one thing we need. Well, I think at this time, I think one of the reasons why we were maybe a wee bit worried that the Transmit set wouldn't be a big thing and it wouldn't have a lot of exposure. So we were like, how do we get that moment that sticks out? You know what I mean? That makes people remember it. Obviously, it went amazing, and I'm so happy with how many people actually were there and how many people I spoke to about it since then. But
I mean, I was watching it on YouTube last night, like the full sets up. It just
yeah,
fucking
mate, it
nuts.
was such a great time we had. But with that song specifically, we were like, we'd seen like Jerry done Discoland. That's one of the things I remember for when Transmit first started, was him doing that.
You used to see that video on Facebook constantly, man.
Yeah.
That was one of the main Transmit videos you would see, was that. So
like, we had a standout moment, and we were like, why don't we take a song that means a lot to us, at least not so much means a lot to us, but is firmly embedded in our brains from our childhood, something that's going to like connect with people of a similar age or slightly younger or slightly older.
Everyone knows that song.
So we wrote down about 20 songs, and like Hey Yeah was the first song that we suggested, and we wrote all these other songs down, and we couldn't agree on any of them, and then we were just like, it's got to be Hey Yeah, so but we just weren't sure how we were going to go about it.
What were some of those other songs? If you don't mind.
Live and La Vida Loca.
Things like think of the kind of like cheesier pop songs that would have been out there, things like
Stacey's
Stacey's Mum and all that. Like we weren't sure about today, but it had to be something that would be like a sing along, but not like you could very easily go and play like an Oasis song or something like that. But we were like set on like has to be pop music.
It has to be radically
It
different.
has to be a song that wouldn't sound like us, and we'd take it and change it to sound like us.
Yeah, something that people.
We always thought about like Baby Strange covering Young Folk,
Young
how
Folk
that
as
became
well,
one
yeah,
of their
it's
songs.
so radically different, but the same. Or like, have you seen Fabric Bear doing?
Bad Guy.
Yeah.
Have you seen their mashup as well?
I'm
So
not
they do a
sure.
mashup between the Strokes and Sugar Babes.
Oh really?
It's fucking mental. It's
There
so
seems
good.
to be so many. That's the thing. It's like, I mean, it's not to say like the band's not seen like kind of inspired it or whatever, but it seemed to be like people. You couldn't even put a finger on it, but there just seemed to come a moment when the bands in the scene or like bands in Scotland started to kind of like get a kind of wee signature cover that shows that we have not just like a kind of ability to write songs, but to kind of transpose these songs and make them like ourselves. Like, I think that's what we managed to do with Hey Yeah, was that when we had the end product, we'd finished it, which was before we'd recorded it. We were kind of like, aye, that sounds kind of like one of our songs. Like, it sounds like we could have wrote that rather than it being.
Had you planned to record it, or was it just because of the reception with Transmit that you
no,
thought?
there was like, I mean, there's kind of reasons why you do things like this. You know what I mean? There's reasons why it's all kind of related to exposure and trying to get yourself in the ears of the music industry, you know, and get yourself in the right places. So it was kind of seen as a move in that way, at least in that it could be big for us. I mean, there's always that kind of. I'd be lying if I say I wasn't a wee bit worried in case it done too well and it became like our defining song. I was kind of worried about
Well,
that.
it's like DMA's our top song on Spotify is the Believe cover, isn't it?
Yeah, which is probably their biggest point of exposure as well. I mean, I hadn't heard of them until I seen that video as well.
Had you
and
not?
No, I'd never heard of DMAs until that point, and I seen that on. Because I like all the covers on. Is it the Triple J?
Triple
innit?
J.
Yeah.
They're
There's
all
a really cool
good.
Strokes one as well with some
Yeah,
girls.
I
singing
really
the
like.
solo and
We watched was a really good Fatboy Slim cover by what was that band
The
again?
Belligerents.
Belligerents done Praise You, and it's like it's good.
Bless
It's good because you know, get people do covers and it's like, oh, we're gonna change it up and do our own thing. They more or less get it like 1-to-1 spot on. They do add some
But
wee
it's all
bits
live
to it.
as
It's
well,
all
man.
live
It's
though, and
all
it's like
live
even the
instruments.
drummers getting every part of the percussion, like, or even just like the Alex Turner band when he does Tame Impala. It's just like,
Very
especially because it was purely AM kind of era, like
Peak Arctic Monkeys, yeah.
aye.
Did you put it on? You put it on Jackson as well. Do you not match it up with Hamden Cabs?
We mashed up with Hand and Calves, which was like
That was a pure last.
that was a pure
decision,
last
man.
minute. Like we were like
that works really well.
we
though.
was like I'm glad that people think that because it was literally like they. So we wanted clarification. We were saying to Jim, we were like, right, Jim. So will this cover be enough if we're just covering it? Because we'd already done the cover before we get told to do a mashup. So we're like, well, we can just use this because this is us covering it. It's basically a mashup. It's us mashing ourselves up with Outcast. But they were like, nah, it needs to have a mashup element to it. So we were like, right, what can we do that goes to that? So we were like, we'll just do Hamden Cabs was kind of the like
One
way it
ends on
went.
a knee and one
And
starts on a knee.
so we were like, yeah, one ends on the knee, starts on the knee. So it was just like, and it was a kind of like, it was a kind of wee call out to the, because it's like Hamden Cabs by this point is one of those songs. It's like if you've been,
It's a deep track.
if you've been watching, if you've been listening to us for a while, you know Hamden Cabs. Some people that may have kind of got in more recently in year and a half might not be as familiar with it. So especially for people like Jack Saunders, I mean, he doesn't have a clue what Hamden Cabs or like Tommy or anything like that is. You know what I mean? So for us, it's like we kind of shout out to like people being like, "Oh, Hamden Cabs, like we've put that on radio. Why it's not going to play it on BBC Radio 1 at any point?" So we've actually found an opportunity to do that.
That's another thing. Like your music is so tied to Glasgow.
Yeah, definitely. It's just the stories. It's because it's so much stuff obviously comes from. There might be songs that might seem like about something. Obviously, it's coming from your own subconscious, so it's got to be rooted in something that's happened in your own life. A lot of the time, there's a lot of things that's strictly about people we've met and characters we've met, or the kind of people you meet in Glasgow. But a lot of stuff that just comes from our kind of.
Is that who Dimitri is?
I think Dimitri's actually like Dimitri's not really. See, the thing is, when I wrote Dimitri, I thought it was going to be dead obvious. I said to the boys at the time, I was like, I don't know if I can put a song out like this because I feel like it's too obvious in terms of what the song's actually about. So the song is about dimethyltryptamine, like DMT, and like it was just based on kind of some of the experiences I'd had when I'd tried DMT. I always wanted to put it into a song. The funniest thing I thought about it was, the thing about it is when you do DMT is that you can't really put it into words, either after a long time of considering what has happened and immediately after. So there's kind of references to that into the song, like water through my fingers. It's like you're trying to grasp what's just happened, but it's totally gone. So the irony I found was I was trying to put into words something that I felt like you can't put into words, but I just ended up with a kind of decent pop song with it. But not too many people have picked up on that.
I didn't know about DMT. Now that you've said it, I kind of envisioned like a house party type thing in a situation like that. Yeah, but I didn't know that.
Well, somebody had said that to me before. They were like, "Oh, I just kind of took it as like a kind of like." Not like a druggy song, but like it's there in the lyrics, kind of. Do you know what I mean? But I knew that for me, I just hoped it would be subtle enough that people wouldn't pick up on it. But it's funny that it hasn't. It's like when we kind of think about what we know some of our songs are about, and the fact they've had like exposure on like major platforms like BBC Radio 1.
Well, Dimitri must have been played on.
Dimitri was played on it, yeah. Bad Decisions, Witch Hunt.
Radio 1 probably don't know what Dimitri's about.
Yeah, they probably don't know. I mean, it's like that's the thing we had an interview with Jack Saunders and he asked us what Witch Hunt was about, and I was like,
is it about Johnny Rotten?
The BBC.
It's about the BBC.
It's about Jimmy Savile, yeah.
I had an interview and then they banned him from the BBC for that. So it was like he was asking me and I was like, I don't know how to word this. And then in the interview, like if you listen to the Medeville session, it's all cut out. It's like the whole portion is like just.
Yeah, I was about to say you don't speak about that.
Nah, the whole portion gets cut out. He goes to ask us about it, and then it's like I said it, and I was like, "There's no way his producer's gonna let that go out," because it's like it's not as if I'm like it's a slight against them. It's like I just wanted to write a song that could talk about that subject, but again have it be subtle and have it only be me being like, right, that's good that I've at least put that out there. It's not like I'm sitting going like, oh, I'm raising awareness of this or that. It's just I know what the song's about. I've also wrote it as a song that I feel that people will enjoy. It's also a good tune. Yeah. I get a kick out of the fact that people can listen to it or it gets exposure like that. Like I'm sitting going like, I remember it get played on BBC Radio 1 and get played twice in a row. So Hugh Stevens played it and then he played it. He went, let's play it again, and played it twice in a row. So
it'll never get played again after you've told that story.
Well, I mean, hopefully, I mean, maybe not do any other singles that are like that. But he played it twice in a row, and I'm sitting there going, like, oh my god, this is crazy. The fact he's even done that, but the fact that what this song is about as well, and the fact it's on the BBC, I just thought it was hilarious. I totally. It was exactly what I wanted when I was writing it. You know, I mean, if I'm gonna write a song that's gonna be about something like that, because it's like, although it's about Johnny Rotten, it's about him kind of murdering these kind of characters. Do you know what I mean? Murdering these people. That's what he wanted to make the movie about. Murdering these people that he believed were doing all these, or at least he knew were doing these kind of things.
Have you ever seen the interview with Piers Morgan, like that live stories?
Oh yeah, well that's the thing.
About it and that, yeah.
They played it during an interview, and he's kind of like, I told you so. But
it never went out though. The interview, did it? I think the BBC cut it completely.
They cut it, and it's just now obviously years ago it's been on the internet and stuff. It's the same with like there's a comedian called Jeremy Sadowitz who's I think he's from America and moved to Glasgow. He's known as being he's kind of like I mean he probably wouldn't like the comparison with Frankie Boyle, but that's the kind of
a provocative figure.
Exactly. Probably with Frankie Boyle before Frankie Boyle basically. You can't find Denny's comedy like anywhere because he just like he's quite strong with the copyright for it. So there used to be though. A recording that was him off his album doing a similar kind of joke about Jimmy Savile, and his record get taken off the shelves in shops at that point just by referencing it, and this was in the 80s and he made a joke like that. So you wouldn't imagine it went out at the time, but it's
you watched the Louis Theroux documentaries about it as well.
Well, both that and the reaction, because he was totally kind of taken in by the guy, and
Louis completely missed it, yeah. But then it's the one when he goes back. Because after he died and he goes back and speaks to the people again. I mean, from your personal point of view, if you're he's someone who's exposed people before and stuff. Yeah. To miss something that big must eat away at you. You know,
but it almost seemed like, and especially the thing like when the guy kind of passed away, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, it was everybody knew, or it was so common, or we all had an idea about it." And it's like, the guy obviously was able to. It's so weird though, because what I found so odd about the fact that Louis Theroux was kind of sucked in by the guys when I was watching it, and if you watch it back yourself, it's like some of the things he's saying, he's literally, I mean, I don't want to repeat any of the things he says, but there's things he says during the documentary that's like him kind of flaunting
the way he cuts about as well in his wee shorts and his fucking,
and it's the way that he cuts about, like he cuts about all walks of life, you know what I mean? He was a guy who could walk into Buckingham Palace or down the street without being searched, you know. He was having dinner with Margaret Thatcher every like New Year or whatever. Like he was a marriage counsellor for the royal family.
Even
so like it goes up, it's like it's crazy stuff to get into, but
there's not really a figure like that these days though who could walk.
No, there isn't. I mean, obviously times have changed now. You've seen how like with the Me Too movement and stuff, it's like a lot of this stuff isn't being tolerated anymore, and thankfully a lot of people kind of been stamped out for it. That's another funny thing is like witch, like it's you get weird things that happen, weird coincidences, weird synchronicities. It's like with the witch hunt, we released witch hunt, and it's like how many times has Donald Trump tweeted the words witch hunt? Every time he does it, people reply and are like, "Ha, the Dunts." It's like, it's weird. It's weird.
You need to write a song about Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, but it's just like, I feel like it's even like, it's kind of like the South Park thing where they've not really slagged him, because it's like, how do you?
He's a parody.
He is a parody.
It's a bit like we mentioned Piers Morgan. Yeah, he's almost become a parody of himself as well.
Yep, that's the worst point when you do become that. If you become parodies, is how can you? And there's obvious things, but it's like if we were to write a song and we go after Donald Trump and we go, oh, Donald Trump is a racist, it's like you're kind of just being like stating the obvious with some of these kind of things. You know what I mean? Like, not to say one thing or the other, but it feels like you're kind of. I spoke to one of the boys in Pleasure Heads about this. It kind of. I seen one of his interviews. I think it might have been yourself. Where he says,
I was way to bring that up. Yeah,
preaching to the choir. That's how I feel. That's how I feel when we wouldn't say we're a political band. We've got songs like Coalition of Chaos that reference politics, or things like even Witch Hunt. I feel references politics. Yeah. But that isn't the entirety of who we are as a band, so we don't want to make it. It's just I feel like you are preaching to the choir, and I also feel like being in a band, like you the ultimate goal really is to become self-sustainable and be able to have a career as a musician and make money. So the product that you're selling helps you to do that. So if your whole thing is like a political image, there's almost this kind of thing like, we're raising awareness and we're doing this and that, but you're also kind of like pulling people in to take their money so that you can survive. Do you know what I mean? So it's I just find that I wouldn't want us to be all about politics in that way. So it's good to kind of go into that kind of.
And the problem I have with some political songs as well is that if they're so upfront with their meaning, they're boring, because songs are about taking your own meaning from it, which is like what you've done with Witch Hunt. Like you were saying, it's a political song. But it's also a tune. You know. There's
just things in there to be taken for it. Same with Coalition of Chaos. I wanted to just try, and it was the first song I wrote the lyrics for myself, and it was the first one I sat and kind of wrote the guitar and stuff for myself. And I just wanted to have a wee something in every line that somebody could take a wee something from or find a connection with it. But again, we've always been maybe kind of obsessed by trying not to state the obvious. Even though some things might seem so obvious with our songs, we always try and be a bit subtle. We like running ideas together. We like juxtapositions. We like things to seem like they're obvious, and then to us it means something completely different. We just like to play about with that. But sometimes it's like, at least with Coalition of Chaos, that was just me try to put all these kind of emotions that I have about it, because people are so like set apart these days by politics over really stupid things that we all kind of forget what the big issues are. Do you know what I mean? We forget that there's a lot of people from deprived backgrounds that will never escape that. That's the thing that I always relate to, kind of growing up in the kind of areas. That's the thing I always think of. So for me, I'm not as obsessed about like other people think there's other cultural problems. I'm not as bothered about them because I can't really relate to it. It doesn't relate to me specifically. The things that I tried to write about are talking about that, because it's like that's what Scottish independence for me was like. I felt like that was a chance for us to make life a bit better for people that were, despite the fact that we live in the West and life is generally good. It was a chance to do that, and the fact that the Tories are now a majority, and right away they're just again attacking the weakest people in society, or the people the most vulnerable. And people are surprised by it, or people even talk on these things like Question Time, and they go, oh, look at the state this country's in. It's like, we've had the same government in for about 10 plus years now,
and it's just getting worse.
It's them that's doing it, you know what I mean? Stop voting them in. That'd be the simplest thing to do. Is if you're sick of the way this country's turning out, then maybe think about changing the government that's been in for the past 10 years.
But it's getting, I mean, look at what were all those like northern, was it Durham and stuff, that had been Labour for hundreds of years.
They all switched, and it was a very, I mean, the thing is, having we've all been through Scottish independence, so we all kind of, I think a lot of people woke up to how biased the media was after that, whereas I think a lot of people during the British election didn't realise it was going on as much. Like, I think Jeremy Corbyn isn't a perfect human being. I don't think he's a perfect
But
politician.
he was villainised by the media.
He was villainised by the media.
He lost an election because his glasses were squinty.
Character assassination. It was total character assassination. They were just blatantly lying about the guy, and it's like when you see things like that happening, your instant reaction should be, why are the powers that be doing this? Why are the media getting after him? It's not because he's a terrorist or because he's a communist. It's because he's a threat to the establishment. He's a threat to the elite. But his problem is almost maybe his ideas are so radical to some people that they're so ingrained in a certain way of thinking that they're like, that's not possible. You will destroy the country if you do that. And it's like,
it's the same in America with what they're facing with healthcare and stuff at the minute.
It's a total rejection of, like, with Donald Trump. I felt like at the time, it was because they are sick of politicians at this point. So he was it's
a reality TV stuff.
It's the anti-establishment vote. It's the being part of the super elite and being part of the establishment, but somehow managing to convince the public that you're anything but, which is what happened with Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, we know, is one of these guys that's highly connected. We know he's one of these guys that's
a smart guy.
He's a smart guy. He is. People, that's a funny thing when he became the Prime Minister, so many people would be like, oh, I can't believe a guy, an idiot. Like, the worst thing is he's an idiot. He might blow us all up and all that. I'm like, no, the guy is not an idiot. The guy
that's
is
the most insidious part about it as well. Like, he's got this public image of a guy who's thick when he's not. He's the exact opposite of that, and that's what makes it 10 times more. He's got a book called, I can't remember. I might be misquoting it, but it's a book called, I think it's called 72 Virgins, and it's about this bumbling politician. Basically him, he's wrote the book about himself, and he manages to foil this terror plot. So the book obviously is just laced with like racist words and expletives in it. It's somebody who reviewed it said the most worrying part about the book was that the character had been described as, although being innocent and being a buffoon and an oaf and all that, he wasn't really like that, and he actually didn't have any beliefs or opinions. He was just trying to further himself, which is that's the way I feel when you look at Boris Johnson. It seems so potently obvious. This is a guy who is self-serving and obviously serving like his buddies. Do you know what I mean? He's buddies for his private schools and his secret societies.
You see that thing the other week as well, where cut out like half the media from one of like the press conferences or something. I didn't know like half that. He letting the journalist that he thinks is gonna give him a better write up.
Which is like you see that happening. I mean, it's like that's feeding off into. It's like you don't want to say fascism, but this is like
it's populism, isn't it?
It is not totally. I think that's what him and
Trump
live off populism. Like that's the entire thing. I don't know how long it can last. It can only last for so long, but then again, it's a rotating door.
I mean, I think they're saying in America that there's going to be a rejection of his ideas, but Tories have been in power here for 12 years now, and folks still aren't rejecting it.
People still aren't rejecting it. People are seeing things are getting worse. The funny thing was the Tories were able to, at least for the first 5 years, just they just kept deflecting everything back at Labour, saying you caused all this, as if they caused.
They're still saying that though.
They're still doing it, and it's weird now because even when they're trying to argue back and say, look, it's been like you're the government, you have been the government for the past 10 years, how can you blame the opposition? You're trying to make changes and you're still blaming.
It's a vicious circle though, because I mean one of the things they're doing is cuts to education, and that's the reason that a lot of these problems are occurring, the lack of education.
It is, people don't know enough, and but what I find as well is, especially with this kind of internet and information age that we live in, there's so much there that's readily available, whereas people almost become lazy in their thinking, and that they will take, like what I've noticed with especially Boris Johnson is there's a lot of like things that are cut down to very simplistic ideas or are made or they're put forward in the form of sound bites or catchphrases.
It's like you won't get Brexit done.
Like people's opinions people's opinions just become surrounded, like, or at least become about a certain slogan or catchphrase.
Opinions are just essentially headlines with no other substance underneath that. It's just the headlines.
People aren't reading newspapers, they're just reading headlines.
Like the Brexit question seemed to be like that, and not for like everybody, because there was people who there's been Eurosceptics for a long time. There's people that had other reasons for voting. There's some people who were put forward a question and had their opinion swayed or at least changed by certain deceitful tactics. Do you know what I mean? Like the whole NHS bus, like.
Well, I mean, what was that quote as well? Like, Facebook is the greatest propaganda machine.
Yeah.
But I mean, have you watched that documentary on Netflix
Cambridge
as well? The Cambridge Analytica scandal.
So that's part of the problem as well. The landscape's changed so much now. Where like, if someone who was looking to only further themselves, regardless of anybody else and how that would affect other people, they can now do that because the tools available to them with this technology. So you wonder, you're like, how long can it last? But it's not the same as it used to be. It's not just the newspapers these people have access to data that wasn't ever available, or not accessible before.
I mean, they can target specific groups.
They can because the thing today, it seems to be a divide and conquer attitude by the people that are manipulating everybody. That seems to be they want to section off everybody into like smaller and smaller and smaller groups until there's so much infighting that there's no attempt at there can be no attempt at like fighting back because everybody is so divided. Just
feeling, like class divide and race divide.
Class divide, like then there's a cultural divide. You know what I mean? There's a shift everywhere. There's like even just people at different ages. The generations have changed that rapidly that there's a real problem with like in the way that in the past things would have been passed on through culture and it would have evolved over time. It feels like there's a dramatic break between 2 and 3 generations where everybody like we're all looking at the world in different in different ways. It's like I feel like especially with the rise of social media, there's like seems to be a kind of embedded and accepted narcissism now. It seems to be like it's readily encouraged. And you
get that dopamine hit when someone makes a photo.
That's it, man. That you get like I've had 100 likes, or like people like I'm gonna take down this picture because it's not enough likes or whatever. It's like you're already accepting something like that in your life. That's already took over your life at that point. It's became an addiction, and it is an addiction. Like I find it hard myself, like deleting some of the apps sometimes, and then I find myself a couple of days and I'm like desperate to get back in it again. I'm like, why? Why do I care?
It's difficult as well being in a band because social media is such a huge platform.
Exactly.
You want your stuff, so you can't actually get rid of it. You can get rid of your personal ones, but even on Facebook you need that to.
It's in terms of like kind of criticism and stuff that way. It's kind of like I feel like you couldn't really escape it. I guess if you were a big band, you were getting reviewed and that. But I, on a smaller kind of stage back in the day, you'd have been at least free from immediate criticism direct to you because it's like.
But the amount of shit someone like folk post at you on Twitter I've seen before. Like.
Aye, we do, but I get it though. It's like you never want to be. You never want to turn into that band. It's like they're so popular that like most people actually hate them. Do you know what I mean? But with us, it just seems to be. I don't know. You get a mixture. You do get a mixture because you get we've had people before that are like bought tickets to our gigs and they're slagging us. Do you know what I mean? So they're being like, "Oh, I'm turning up at your gig," but it's not because I want to see you. It's because I want to see another band or something. But I don't know. We've kind of got used to it in the way that it's always been there from the very beginning. And from the very beginning, it was more kind of petty with people you actually know. Whereas now it's just strangers, so you kind of
more bizarre.
That is more bizarre. Like there was a guy who was messaging Rab, and Rab spent the full night talking to him. Like 'cause Rab was just humouring the guy, because the guy was just so like he was trying to get a rise out of Rab. He was really, really trying to get Rab to just lose the plot, and Rab was just laughing at the guy the full way. Like right at the very beginning, the guy had said we were terrible or something, and I was like, okay. And the guy kept coming back to being like, oh no, I actually like yous. And then like he just tried to play games, and he was sending like wee like fishing rod emojis and all that. But I think there's a kind of self-deprecating kind of thing in Scotland where it's like I always like talk about this thing that Lemmy says, where it's like. You imagine someone was at the karaoke, right, and they went up and they were really bad. Would you think that was cringy or embarrassing? You would probably think that was a wee bit cringy or embarrassing. He's like, what if somebody went up and they were actually really good? Do you not think that would be even more cringy and embarrassing because they're like trying and they're talented? Like there's that kind of attitude in Scotland where it's like
Riddy culture.
It's either Riddy culture. It's like, oh my god, like that. This is one of the reasons why you wouldn't be like, I'm in a band. Now it's more like there's that many bands that you can just be like, I play music in a band and feel alright about it. But I think if I was about 14, 15 and I said that, I play in a band, you just feel like people would laugh at you first. Like, and this is like when we first started, that was kind of some of our first criticism was people having that kind of attitude, being like, oh, what, you gonna be in a band? Are you gonna play gigs and be in a band? And it's like, well, we are, and it just turned out alright. So, well, you just need to like, I think we kind of, see, as long as things are going well, you just laugh. You just have a laugh about it. You kind of let people.
Just gotta take it in your stride.
Take it in your stride, man. At least be happy that people know who you are, even if they hate you. Because a lot like, and I'm gonna throw my girlfriend under the bus with this one here, but it was like before I had met my girlfriend, she was aware of the Dunts, but our name was everywhere all the time. So she didn't like us just because we were everywhere. Like it was like no, it was relentless.
Did she not have us like the word?
She muted? Had the word muted. The Dunts. She likes us now. She's been to see us live and stuff. Obviously, like do you know what I mean? She likes our music.
But it's just like.
But it's like we were almost like kind of like everywhere at that point, to the point where she didn't even want to listen to us because we were like they must be bad or whatever, or like they must be overrated or something like that, something along the lines of that. But this is some people's kind of thinking, and it's not like we need to go out there and try too hard to win these people over. We'll just continue doing what we do. And if people's opinion changes over time, then that's good. But we're not bothered because we've got the people that do care about us. We at least know that we've got these fans. Like there used to be when people would like slag us, they'd end up like other people hassling them. Not as if we'd be sending people to hassle them. People would just be like, oh, that's bang order and all that. Like these boys are just trying to live their dream, leave them alone. That like as if you should have to take criticism. So you need to like become resilient to things. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, you're very much a band. I think provoke a strong reaction within people. You seem like a bit of a Marmite band. People.
We are a band. I think we are a Marmite band.
I've never met anyone who thinks the Dunts are alright.
Yeah.
Folk either love the Dunts.
Oh, they hate
can't
them.
stand the
That's
Dunts.
it, man. And like we are very happy to have that kind of.
That must be better than
effect on
everyone
people.
thinking you're alright.
The thing is, like, I think there was.
Bang average,
There was an. I think there was an element at the start where we were kind of. You're writing songs and you're kind of not. You're not sure whether what you're doing is good enough, or whether you should be writing music that should be trying to make people like it, or like if I write this, then maybe these people will like it, or if maybe I should change this. And then
I mean,
these
they always
people
say,
like it.
yeah, never write something for someone else.
But but we've always kind of, as soon as we started writing our own songs and playing them live and people liked them, it was just that's just this rush forward, because when we first started, we were like that. We'll play one cover in our set, that we want to play the rest of the songs in the set, regardless of how short the set is.
A cover can work wonders in a set. It gets folk on your side.
It does. We would do like Arctic Monkeys or the Strokes or something, just something that's like popular, people know, but we still get to play all the rest of our own songs around that because we believe in these songs. But I just feel like because we have just continued to just be ourselves and do what we like, it has attracted the right people to us. And you can't win everybody over anybody. Think about just in general in life, like how many people would you actually consider to be your actual friend? How many people like do you have like they're just nothing to you, and then people that you don't like, that you can't like everybody and get on with everybody? It's impossible. It's a tiny amount of people, especially the further on in life you get. You know what I mean? The more lessons you learn, it starts to get really small. So it's the same with like you with your fans. As long as you've got these people that really care about you and will do everything and support what you're doing and want you to live it and live the dream. Like they don't need to know anything about us personally and our reasons for it. They don't need to know how much is like depending on it, how much like we do want to do as a career. We really do, and we're full steam ahead now. But even just the fact that they enjoy our music enough to come and see us live or buy merch or whatever it is, like it does. You can never not appreciate it. You appreciate it constantly, and it's we've tried to do as much as we can to give back to people, in ways that we can. Like we've done the merch. Can I give? Well, not to say a giveaway. All these people also raised money for us, but we tried to at least try and. Because it was such a range with that thing, with people giving us money, there was such a range of the kind of prices. They were like, we need to go right down the middle with this and just have it just be one set of things that we give to everybody, so it's fair. But we even felt just at least doing that made us feel a bit better, because people don't need to do that. So we were happy with the people that do matter a lot to us.
I remember I was at that show. I was quite shocked when I found out.
It was crazy, mate, because it was a great.
First, it was a good show. Sold out, was it?
It was, yeah. I think it was sold out on the door, mate.
First night of the tour.
Yeah. When we got like, to be fair, like we didn't have a massive inventory, but they basically just like
what kind of a
they
cunt?
done this, man. They stole all it,
man.
They just stole all it. I don't know. Because things go through your mind, right? You're like, oh, right away. You're like, oh, it was probably one of the like some wee guy that was like steaming or something, and then all the rest of these wee pals have stole it. And then people are telling us it was more likely it was like people our age, and it was like girls our age. They'd like probably, which is to us is like. It's not that it's New York. Like when I check your Spotify analytics, it's like pretty much people our age are the ones.
Can you see?
Yeah, you can see. I think 18 to 22 is probably the most popular, which is a good bit like younger than us at least now. But it's mostly people kind of our age. But
that's what you want, though.
You totally expected to be a kind of a certain type of person that would do something like that, and I think it was. We don't know. We don't know for sure who done it, but for what we heard, it wasn't. It was people that kind of. It's almost as if they would buy tickets to go there just to turn up and just cause trouble. Which people do things like that, especially for bands, especially the bands that are getting or are popular or out there all the time. This is I think some people just get frustrated by seeing your name out there all the time. Maybe like it just frustrates them. I don't know.
Speaking of merch, actually, one of the Dunts FC t-shirts coming back, because I've been waiting eagerly
You've been
for
waiting,
one.
Oh, right.
Did I tell you what happened at the Touch show?
No.
So I tried to buy one twice.
Right.
The first time I went up to the guy, I was like, can I buy one of the... There was only two of them, and one of them was my size. I was like, perfect. It's like, yeah, can I buy one of them? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, but he's like, sorry, you can't buy it until after they've played. And I went looking, I'm thinking, right, fair enough, but I'm going to have to be like shooting off the train as soon as your set's done. So then you played, set was done, went straight back over to him, was like, right, can I get the top? And he was like, yeah, no worries. It was like 30 quid or something. So I don't tend to have like 30 quid of cash on me.
Of course.
So I was like, can I just use a card reader? He was like, oh yeah. And he took it, I was like, oh, I don't know how to work this. He's like, it'll need to be cash. I'm like,
Okay,
and then I got home and texted you and I was like, is that t-shirt still left? And you're like, nah, somebody's bought it. I'm like,
who would have been doing the merch? Like,
I don't even
can't
know,
buy
man.
merch before we play.
But this is
if we get asked that, like, oh, people can buy merch whenever they want.
That's what I went up and I don't know, because Craig from Fiends was originally doing it, and he was trying to entice me and get me to buy that top. Craig would have some of the top.
Yeah, he just sold you.
Craig was like flaunting the top, like lovely Dunts shirt, and I was like, what?
That's good for that.
He was the one who kind of got me thinking, that top. And then when I went back, it was someone else doing it, and I was like,
this is like when was the last time like the only time that we are doing merch is like on tour and that, you know what I mean? That's the only time we are kind of really doing it. So it's any other time it's either like the garage, there was someone that I think just was paid through DF that had done it, so they had just done all the self-res and we got to just relax with it. But normally it's one of our pals. So
did you ever sell merch yourself for their bands when you were kind of on the way up? Or?
We would do doors and stuff sometimes. Like I used to do like doors for gigs that we would do, like when we were doing Summit broadcast and stuff. I'd maybe do the doors sometimes to kind of help it. We'd all kind of like help it that way. Doing.
And you played there a lot on the way up, didn't you?
We did a lot of broadcasts. We really, it was us kind of cutting our teeth then in Priory.
What sort of bands were you supporting when you were kind of?
We supported Red Faces at one point.
I just saw they broke up. What a good band.
They just broke up.
Supported Voodoo's in there.
Supported Voodoo's in there. Aye. We supported
another good band.
We know what, we done a lot of the kind of Control Social Club nights as well. So a lot of the nights it was like we were supporting like Rascalton when we first started, and I think the first one we played was us, Rascalton, Pleasureheads and Das Plastics, and it was Rascalton were playing last, Pleasureheads were playing first, and we were second.
Pretty stacked bill if that bill was to go on again.
It was the first time we'd ever seen Pleasureheads and Rascalton, and man, and we were pretty confident. We were like, oh, this will be good. And then we seen Pleasureheads and we were like, oh my god. And then we played them, that was class. And then Rascalton played them, we were like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, we need to get better, kind of thing. Like, but it was in a good way, in the best way possible. But we definitely kind of went like, right, great, these guys are killing it. So we need to up our game, and we need to definitely get like. Didn't feel it was a scene then. We were all kind of just met, so there was no kind of like, I don't know, we were not as close as we are now. We've had all these other things since then, like Electric Fields and all these different gigs, Fed Payton and stuff.
Was it last year they did the Priory show with you, Baby Strange and
us, Baby Strange and Rascal?
That must have been fucking mental.
It was good because it's like one of the things you think you'd have thought it would have happened already. You'd have thought that gig's already that must have happened at some
I remember that was the marketing for it, wasn't it? It was like, what if the Dunts? No, what was it? What if Baby Strange, the Dunts, and Rascalton played a show together? It's like 20 times, right? Like coming out of The Shining.
Because it's. I mean, you've been in the Pride yourself. You've seen how cramped it can get. Like it's not like any other venue, and
I mean just the atmosphere of it when you go in that, and there's always folk feel like local bands and they're drinking.
It's always like a who's who. When we first started going, it was like that as well, because that's how I met a lot of the people that I had known, not known personally, but had known to be in bands. People like Jan and that, people like Declan. Like I'd known who they were before.
When did Club Sabbath start up?
It was before we started, but I think it was. I think Johnny had been doing it for a wee while. I read about it because it was Jokey had obviously spoke to Johnny about starting the club night. But by the time we had done it, we had like, I mean, Sway had done it, I'm pretty sure already. So
it was well in full swing.
It was in full swing, and it was something that we had wanted to play as well. It was something that we didn't know how to go about it, how to get the gig, but we were determined that it was going to come about at some point. Luckily, Johnny had like seen, we had done our first 3 gigs at Record Fact, and he'd seen a recording for one of them. Which is like, that's what you want to happen, but like you don't actually imagine things like that are actually going to happen. That's how you picture it's going to happen. Like, oh, you'll see my Facebook post and then I'll get a gig, and that's actually what happened. So, do
you remember the first time you met Johnny?
I remember it. I was in Friday.
It was in Sneaky Pete's, was it? Not?
Was it no one? No, it was the first time we met him. I'm pretty sure it was when we done Sabbath on Friday.
No, we met him in Sneaky Pete's before that. Did we know? Because then we were saying that we were going to play Club Sabbath.
I can't remember, mate.
I'm pretty sure it's Sneaky Pete's.
Nah,
that when we went for to play with Rascal?
It was definitely Friday, because we done Control Social Club and then we done Club Sabbath immediately after that. So it must have been Friday was the first time we met him. We wouldn't have went away yet. I think it was. Must have been one of the two anyway. But the first time we met him, I remember, because we were all shit scared when he came down the stairs. And I'm just going to go with Friday, right? That's why I think it was. But it was the first time I remember, because I remember it all being the same, which was being pure.
You must have been big Baby Strange fans, were you?
Aye. And it was like at the end of that night, for example, it was like we had to go and ask for the fee for Sabbath. So it was like Rab and David were like, right, who's going to go and ask for the fee? And Dave was like, I'm not doing it. And I was like, I'm not doing it. He's like, well, I'm not doing it because you're not doing it. I'm not going to bother because you're not doing it. And then I was like, I'll just fucking do it. I was like, I'll just do it. I was like, I'm not bothered about it. I was going to ask. And he asked him, and it was like, one of the ones where it was like, so like, when we getting the fee? And he was like, oh, you need to wait till the end of the night. And I was like, I felt like a pure dick. I was just like, should have just waited, man. Should have just waited. But I was like, think of that now compared to the way we were with Johnny now. It's I felt like it took until we went in to do the EP before we proper. That's when you get made an indication of what we were actually like, because we were also a bit more. We're not really shy people, but we were a bit more shy because I don't know. I guess when it comes to bands and stuff, you always kind of put yourself into like a wee kind of hierarchy or whatever. You see people that are in bigger bands that have been doing well, you kind of get a bit intimidated by it. But I think the more.
Have you always recorded with Johnny and Chris?
No, we done like a demo, 4 songs, and we released that like right after. I think it was before we done our first gig. We released this EP, which was Birds and the Bees, G53, Ride the Wave, and Mandirat.
Is that
that was a Friday EP, so it was like a Friday.
I'm thinking of what was the first EP? Oh, Not Working as Class.
Not Working as Class. So that, yeah. So we ended up removing it. So the demo EP we put out for a while, and then we re-recorded. We recorded a song called Astro Boy, and then we done Birds and the Bees for a second time. So
that
we
was
done
in
45 A-side with Paul McAnally, and we.
He's a good producer, Paul.
Mate, totally. That's why we went there. We had listened to the Van T stuff, the Pell stuff, and we were like, this is where we want to go.
Just like retro and stuff now, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think they either started going already or. Man, there was so many bands that he'd done that we were like, oh, it'd be great, and then we did have a great time. But it was when I had a conversation with Marshall. For the first time I met Marshall was like the night before we went and recorded the EP. I met him in Priory. It was one of the nights where everybody's in Priory and it's just pure busy and you can barely move, and it's just it was one of them, and I ended up talking to him in the toilets, and I just had this we had this conversation that kind of just went like, it was all these subjects we spoke about in a row, which is all these things I was really, really interested in.
What sort of stuff were you talking about?
Stuff like, I don't know, man, like I'm quite obsessed with like one of the things was kind of conspiracy theories, where we're talking about David Icke. So he's got a David Icke book sitting in
guy that thinks the Royal Family are all lizards.
He's very well read on a lot of subjects, David Icke, but the reptilian thing seems to be the thing that most people associate with him. Just in the same way that like 30 years ago it would have been his mad like Wogan interviewed him, where he went on and he would like basically Wogan like got him.
Was he a football player?
He was a goalkeeper. He was a goalkeeper, and then he like
used that platform to
he had like a spiritual experience basically, and then he tried to go on the telly and talk about it, and they totally ridiculed him, but he ended up becoming like, calling back to the mad like Jimmy Savile thing, like he's been talking about all this stuff for about like 25 years, you know what I mean? And a lot of stuff he said came through, so it's like he's I would say MD just to look into it and just see, just because there's no point believing in anything fully, but he's like interesting.
It's possibly in a similar way to Johnson, where you just write someone off, like what we were speaking about earlier.
Aye.
It's always, you should never really write someone off.
No, you should totally, even things that you don't agree with, you should still absorb and try and learn from, because you need to learn. And at least with David Icke, it was one of the things I spoke to Kiss about that at the beginning with, and then we started talking about like, it was like it jumped to like Alan Watts and like Terence McKenna and people like that, and then it got to like we were talking about magic. So talking about magic isn't like talking about the occult. So it was like we were talking about synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that Carl Jung talks about, which is these like coincidences that happen that seem to have kind of some kind of meaning or deeper meaning. And I felt like that was one of them, because we had that conversation when I met Marshall, and I had the same when I've met other people. I had the same thing when I met like Jokey for the first time, and I had the same thing when I met like when we met Jerry. It was like a kind of
it's been like a moment that it almost feels.
It feels like you feel like you've met this person before, and you feel like you've already been
like
pals,
deja vu
kind of thing. It's a deja vu. It's like a certainly that, and it's I've got it a lot when it comes to meeting people in relation to music, and it always seems to kind of hark back to that. But
have you had it with anyone that you've like met recently, or?
I'm trying to think of people that were very similar. I've had it with people. The funny thing is, I've had it with people who know really much in the music industry. I was at my girlfriend at a birthday party, and I met a guy, and it was just the same. And I like he like kind of walked in, and I didn't really. It wasn't a guy that right away was like, I'm going to be best pals with this guy. But I got talking to him for like 5-10 minutes, and that's how it felt. And it was the same thing. We were clicking on all the same kind of subjects. It's almost like you feeling like you'd met somebody for the first time, but you've known them for like years.
Yeah.
That way you just know. But we've got a lot of pals that are like that. That's why our pals group. There's a lot of like, if you see like our kind of close pals group, it's a lot of people from different places that have all kind of like at New Year. There, it was like. It was a real like, because we always usually all get together at New Year, like a good kind of core of us, and it's kind of slowly get bigger over
for
time.
a house party.
Aye, man, it was good. It was relaxed, but you do get a lot of people. I guess when you're in, the thing about music and the thing about any of these kind of like arts that people pursue is that you have to have a certain belief in yourself to do it. So I think that's why there's a lot of that kind of common, like the easiest way to maybe get into it would be like people who talk about the law of attraction and the way that you attract things towards yourself, things that you put into the universe, things you, people talk about, people, at least the word manifest, I've seen people use the word manifest a lot more commonly now than maybe they used to. It seems to be a lot more of a common thing that people are realising now, that that's how your life works really. You can't avoid bad things, but you're attracting or you're putting things out into the world, and you're getting things from it. So there was a lot of things like that when we first started the Dunts, but there was a lot of things I really kind of wished for, I wanted to happen, that then happened. So it kind of only furthers your own belief once you have things like that happen.
What do you wish for now that you think?
That's the thing. What I've kind of learned for the old wishing is making sure that I'm not being vague about it and actually trying to know what I want and not just kind of putting some kind of vague idea out into the world. But I think
there's almost that thing as well, that if you are so determined and you think something's going to happen, it'll happen.
Definitely. Or at least if you have like a lot of hard work put towards it as well, because there's always like, as much as we might have all these kind of lucky things that happen for us, like when we get offered wedding or any other kind of opportunity we've been given, there's an element of like, obviously we put the hard work in to get there, but there's just that wee thing that just clicks into place that is the coincidence.
It's a bit like belief though, and faith as well, because if you don't actually believe in it, I do. You do. There must be some. It's a certain kind of thing. I
think it's a certain kind of force. If you need to have like, because you've got an idea of what you want it to be and where you want it to be before it's there. You're just visualising it at that point. When we were sitting in the studio when we first started, we were practicing every week. It was an idea of this is where we could go. Whereas now we feel like we're in it now. So what do we do now that we're here? So we're always constantly trying to think ahead and still keep having an idea of how we want to go forward. Always setting ourselves goals and then most of the time achieving them, and then being able to move things on further and be like, right, if we've done this. So now it's like, what I'll admit, is getting to a point where it's like I have achieved a lot of things I've wanted to do, so I'm having to actually rethink it. I'm having to rethink it all. I'm having to think of where I want it to be. I was like, I really wanted us to get done and do the album, and now that we're doing it, it just feels like it's good. It's going to be done properly. It's going to be done the way we want to do it. But,
I mean, there's a certain, obviously, like I meet like a lot of bands and do a lot of interviews with bands. I mean, not to discredit any of them, but there is some bands that when you meet them, you can sense a certain kind of determination and a belief that isn't present with some of the other ones, and it's obviously something that yourselves have. And
I think there's maybe an element of people like us obsessing about it a lot.
Is it an obsession?
It is an obsession. 100% is an obsession. It's something that takes over your life. For some people, I think they're always like, again, I think it harks back to this kind of like self-deprecating thing, but it's like, you don't want it, like, some people, their whole thing about being in a band is, we don't take it seriously. None of it. We don't take any of it seriously. It's just all a big laugh. And it's like, no, you do. You definitely do.
I know a few bands
you
with that,
need to take it seriously. Like, see if they're even writing songs and putting themselves out there, then they take it seriously, because you can
tell when you see them getting stressed when someone is not working. You can just see the cracks.
Totally, man. Like, so we would regard ourselves as being a bit kind of aloof sometimes, and a wee bit like, I don't know, we like to have a laugh with it, but we really care about it all as well. Like, we're so determined.
You want your personality to shine through, don't you?
You do. You don't want to become too serious, because that's the tightrope you're walking. You don't want to be that guy that's pure, I'm in a rock band, so I need to be if I'm sitting here with you doing an interview, I need to act a certain way. I need to constantly think about, I'm cool when I need to do a certain thing. But you don't want to go too far off the other way, but I'm just going to be like a pure meme for this entire interview, do you know what I mean? The entire podcast, I'm just going to say the weirdest, most random stuff. That just wouldn't be us. We just think everything is us. Like, it all shines through in the music for us. Everything, all the kind of, we feel we're putting the right emotions into the songs, and we feel like that's what people vibe off. We feel like that's what they feed off with the songs, which is that. We're taking it seriously, but it's music to have a laugh to, you know, it's music to feel happy. And
I think if you kind of have that, or the crowd also have that, and the crowd feel like they're part of a community.
Totally, we feed off them as much as it works two ways, and it's like when we go out and do these gigs at like garage and stuff, that's when you kind of remember why it's also important and why you enjoy it as much as you do.
Yeah. With looking back at the early EPs, but so you did Not Working as Class and Self-Convinced, but they were both done at 7 West. So that was the time you got there. How's time kind of changed your view of them, do you think? Has it altered at all? Or?
I definitely see them as like, so like, I mean, I guess we're announcing this soon, aren't we, with the vinyl? Okay.
Probably this will be out in 2 weeks. Will it be?
Yeah. So
then.
So we are. I see them. They're both kind of to me. They both have separate sounds, and I feel like the first EP is definitely a lot more raw than the second one is. The second one has a lot more of that kind of more polished production that the newer singles have, but I still feel like they all feel like the same band.
Very raw.
Yeah. So we're packaging together the
first two EPs.
we're packaging together the first two EPs with the singles as a vinyl. So it's going to be like an unofficial album and a physical copy for people to buy. We just wanted to do it because it feels like, as much as I love the fact we're going to do our first album here,
it's a chapter of the band.
To everyone it will be our debut album. We'll still treat it that way. We still want to acknowledge, as you say, like still want to acknowledge what we've done before, and we think it deserves the treatment of been put in like a track list and played all the way through.
It's like what Sway did for their first four singles.
Exactly, man. Yeah, no, that's it, man. That's it. We feel like it was. We talked about it for ages, and then a guy made us a good offer for it, so we were like.
Well, vinyls are expensive, are they?
Well, that's it, man. Yeah, but the guy's done us a good deal for it. So.
How many have you got impressed?
So,
you'd have to ask Rab. He's been looking at it. I think it's like the company's called Diggers Factory, and if anybody in a band is listening to this, it might be worth looking at it as well. Because I said to the Voodoo's boys, and they're looking at it. Essentially, what they do is they deal with the making, the distribution, the customer service, and all that, and they take like 20% or something off of the sales. But it starts off in pre-orders, so you set like a certain amount of pre-orders, and then if you hit that, it'll go into production. If you don't hit it, then it doesn't happen. You don't lose.
I've seen this actually because I think the Blinders did that with their live album. Because I bought one of them and it's like signed and everything.
Yeah.
And when they did it, that had to be 500 orders before it could be made.
I think Rascal maybe done something similar.
They done something where you had to hit like a certain target. We are fairly confident they will sell okay. The merch is sold really well, incredibly well. So we feel like that's especially for people who've been with us for a wee while and maybe always felt like. I think a lot of people maybe thought if we were doing an album, it was going to be like all the best songs we've done now and then like 3 more songs.
Oh, that's what I liked about Declan Welsh's album.
Yeah, but
is that he had done something completely different.
Yeah, but going in and doing something completely different is. We just kind of always, that was always our attitude, because we're like, as good as everything is to now, we'd always constantly want to write more.
And the way music is now as well, your first album is almost released before you put out your first album.
Yeah.
You look at a band like Vistas, for instance, from Edinburgh. How many singles have they put out over the last like 2 years? Like probably about 2 albums worth. They're putting out a single like every 6 weeks or whatever.
Always that feeling of keeping the buzz going and putting out your newest material. That's, if you're in recording all the time, that's the way you would be. And we are happy with that as well. Like, but there's a lot of singles that we know we're only gonna like we're sitting going, right, we've got this Bad Decision, we're sitting, we've got Marilyn, are we going to sit down on our EP? We're like, nah, we'll just put them out as singles. We can like look at bands like Smiths or the Beatles, like they so many songs they just done as singles, they'll put them in any albums, they were just singles.
I was listening to Smith today actually. I mean, what was it, Charming Man?
No, they've done a lot. I mean, so many, man. I mean, they've even got like just compilation albums, it's just all the singles.
That Hatful of Hollow and
stuff.
Hatful
of Hollow and stuff, and like
the Wombats just put one out as well, did they not? All their B-sides, like in a big lot, like fucking 2-hour album or something. All
and the thing is, with a lot of bands, like if you don't do it, someone else is gonna do it anyway. You go on YouTube and it's like Arctic Monkeys acoustic album or something. Or like,
I mean, look at Arctic Monkeys, all the EPs they used to put out and stuff. That's something like another 2 albums worth.
Beneath the Boardwalk, man, you've got all like the alternative takes, all the songs off the first album, because they had basically recorded demos of the first album and all the other songs. So you get different versions of like When the Sun Goes Down, or like songs that just like aren't even like
songs in them.
They're not like B-sides or anything. They're just songs they had when they were playing as a band that had done as demos that are just on Beneath the Boardwalk that haven't been on anything else. They've got some really good B-sides, but there's a lot of bands that do have that. We've always felt like we try not to, but we always treat songs like singles. I think a lot of the time, regardless of what we're doing.
I think if you're putting an album, not every track has to be.
Yeah, it has to jump out. Gives you a bit.
Conscious of, man. There's no filler. There's not like what you'd call an album song. A song that's just there for the sake of the album, man. You want to write an album that's full of singles, but every song could stand on its own 2 legs as its own single. It should be a difficult decision to be deciding what's going to be coming out as the singles.
Yeah,
I mean, Arctic Monkeys essentially did that with AM.
Yeah.
Or what was that album Calvin Harris put out as well? 18 Months or something, where every song got into the top 10.
Aye. It's things like that's crazy. Like even like I think with the Beatles, it was their first album.
They've got that album One as well, don't they?
Aye, which is just on the number ones, and there's about like
26 songs or something.
Exactly, man. It's got Lady Madonna on it, but I don't know how that was ever number one. I really don't know.
There's some songs missing off that you would have expected.
Yeah, no, totally, mate. I mean, like, you look
then.
at like the White Album and how many songs it's got on it, and it's like
there's some shit on that album as well.
There is some shit on that album, there is, man. But again, some of the stuff that some people would say shit, I'd probably like. I love like everybody's getting this. Everybody's got something to hide apart from me and my monkey. Like for me, that I just love that. Things like Savoy Truffle and all that. Like I love all the
piggies and stuff as well.
Piggies, piggies. I guess that's the thing with George Harrison. Like I fucking love his music. And I think his solo album, All Things Must Pass, is one of the best things ever. But he also done that. Was it Got My Mind Set on You, which to me is just pure like stilted cheddar cheese.
Ringo's and his solo stuff, the Sniff song. Ringo's solo song.
I think Ringo stuff. There's one.
Check that at the Sniff song.
There's one he does. There was one he does. It's actually just a George Harrison song. So there's 2 recordings of it. I think it's Don't Come Easy. It Don't Come Easy. So there's one. There's a Ringo Starr version. It's just him singing it, and then there's like the one that's like George Harrison recorded because it's his actual song. He's a lucky. Ringo Starr. He's a lucky guy.
What's that quote from one of like Paul's old interviews where like. Is Ringo the best drummer in the world? He's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
I don't even.
Well, he left the band, didn't he? And Paul played drums on. I think it was during the White album. There's a few songs Paul
towards the end.
For.
I think they were doing a lot of it, just like going in and maybe 2 of them writing a song or one of them because they could all play all the instruments. But at the same time, I would never really like diss like Ringo as a drummer because I love his drumming. I think it's like it makes like you look at some of the songs.
His stage presence, he's a cool cat.
He is cool, and like things like songs like Tomorrow Never Knows. It's just some like tom and snare, but it's effective. Do you know what I mean? You couldn't have anything else in there. Nothing else makes sense. You couldn't have one of these really big flashy like Keith Moon type drummers in the Beatles. It wouldn't have worked. It's just he does what he does, and you get a lot of drummers like that. Even
you need like a solid rhythm section. That's what a lot of
you do. No, you do. They were so tight that way. I mean, I was watching a video the other day. It was just guitar techniques, and it was all just majority. It was like their older songs, like the songs that a lot of people have this idea that the Beatles were just kind of writing pop songs to begin with, and then started making other experimental stuff. But you look at all the techniques; they were clearly very well read and very well educated when it comes to music. When you look at the wide variety of different things they were doing just in the first like 3 or 4 albums, they really are a force to break them. When you look at how much music they made in such a short space of time, I mean, only essentially about like 7 or 8 years, the amount of albums they made. There's at least a couple of songs the Beatles have made that everyone appreciates. You know what I mean, it's like Here Comes the Sun. So anybody would pick that and go, that's a beautiful song. But I remember
going camping when I was like 15 with pals from school, like up in the woods drinking and just the campfire. Like,
definitely, man. Like,
brilliant.
100%. No, definitely. Or even there's some songs you don't even realise it's by them. But I definitely appreciate them.
I guess because they've got like 4 singers as well.
Yeah, no, it's 4 songwriters, which is something that we that's what I love about us, is how much. I don't really know what the right dynamics are like in most bands. I've spoke to people about it, everybody's different, but we've never had any set like.
I find it weird when you have a band that has 1 songwriter.
Yeah.
Like when it's not like Tim and Pal, whatever, it's marketed as a solo thing, but they play with a band.
Yeah.
I won't name because a few bands in Scottish sing, but I know it's just the frontman that writes everything.
Yeah.
All the parts, and that just strikes me as a bit. I think you can hear it in the music.
I think
one of the beautiful things about a lot of bands is those clashing of influences that gel together well.
You can see it live as well, I think, because
they don't have as much stage presence.
We always like take on both. Like I always get really buzzing when I like, for example, when I was sitting with Marilyn for ages, I was kind of sitting like, I really like this song. I think it's a good song. But I don't really know until I showed them it and I see that they like it. Because as soon as I know that they like it, then I'm like, right, it's good. Then I know it's not just me.
But I mean, that's a good example. Like, what I find quite interesting about you is that you've never written songs like just kind of soppy love songs or whatever that kind of standard thing. You've always tried to write songs about different things. Marilyn being a prime example.
Yeah, I mean, Marilyn's like a kind of opportunity for me to like to write a song in the same way that somebody would write a song like that. So I was like inspired by primarily by a poem that I read in school that was about Marilyn Monroe by Edwin Morgan, and it was like just kind of taking this kind of take on it, just being like just the kind of general attitude of people at the time, how people actually felt when she died, because I watched she kind of represented in a way. But with the song I wasn't sure, like, because we don't. I find like writing love songs and stuff. It's like I know for a fact that I could sit down and write lyrics down that I don't mean. I know I could do that. I know I could sit and write a song that I don't actually totally believe in. I know I could sit and write something just for the sake of being like, right, girls will maybe identify with this or whatever. But I wouldn't want to, because
you can tell though. Like there was a song came out yesterday that I was speaking to one of my pals about. Mm-hmm. In the verses, there was just no substance to them, and you could hear it in the delivery as well.
Oh, aye,
you could hear there's no passion about
totally,
it.
Mm-hmm. You get that. It's like it kind of hides behind. Sometimes, especially when you get people who are very talented singers, it's not as noticeable unless it's something that you care about. But when you do, you hear it, you go, there's no sincerity there, which is I think there's a lot of music out there that's like that. A lot of music's like, not to sound like an old man or anything, but a lot of music these days is just mindless. It doesn't have any meaning particularly.
I think pop has always been a wee bit like that.
But at least they used to tackle kind of like, there's so many songs, like they would tackle bigger subjects. I just think there's like, I don't know, man. There's, especially the more kind of like that Dance Monkey song. Like, I know that song actually does have a meaning. That's the thing. That song actually does have a meaning, but I just still categorize it into this kind of like the substance. There's no like the robotic delivery over it. It just it doesn't.
But then you still get some big pop stars that can, like, if you look at something like Billie Eilish,
I totally,
who is connecting with billions of people.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, very, very like connecting very well. It seems to be
doing something different, I guess.
It does be, yeah, it does. It seems to be. I don't know. It seems to be like it's changing a wee bit now, and I feel like guitars and stuff are coming back in.
I mean, the last decade bands have been a little bit absent from.
They have been.
Yeah, the mid 2000s kind of indie boom, and then it's kind of just been on a gradual decline. Now it feels like it's going to be.
Because I think at the moment where you had like two kind of genres that were separated, where you had like dance music started to dominate as soon as we get into the 2000s, and it already was through the 90s, and then you had kind of more urban or R&B and rap. Now what you've got is like a kind of combination of all three of them meshed together, and that seems to be what pop music is. It is interesting, but that seems to be what pop music's regarded of. It's only really made out of those ingredients, whereas it seemed to be at least 10 years ago or a wee bit before then, you were still getting things like, I mean, it's probably the thing that killed it off. Things like The Killers, Snow Patrol. These bands were still high in the charts.
Kings of Leon towards the kind of.
And Kings of Leon is like just at the end of that, when it's like right, guitar music is when it's high. Is when it's high as it possibly can. It can't go any higher than this, and now it feels like it. Like I seen that thing with NME where they voted in 1975 the best band.
And then also voted them the worst one in 2014.
And it's like, well, what does it mean to have been the best band from 2010 to 2020, considering the like, name me the biggest band from then? Do you know what I mean? You couldn't, because you're like, oh wait, rock music is only slowly resurging through that period. It kind of went underneath. It's considering it was at the forefront of pop music for like 50-60 years. Being voted the best rock band of that decade's pretty much meaningless. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just, they're just doing it to appear like they know what they're talking about. See, because they've went and slagged them before and then seen how popular they are, they feel like they can't continue to give them jip, because it will just make people hate NME even more than they already do.
I don't know how long. Like, how much Steve do you think NME's got left in it?
I don't know. Their medium is dying, so it's like,
I think there's better sites out there.
Nope. Yeah, no, there's better ways of getting you. Like, I feel like people, like, especially see when you see in the way now that, like, especially with younger folk, especially like kind of younger children, like watch YouTube and stuff, it's like their idols and their role models and the people they look up to are now on the internet. I feel like the same way happens in terms of how people want to obtain their criticism and how they want to, things like, I like Anthony Fantano, the guy that does the like music reviews, Needle Drop, and I don't agree with him on a lot of things, you know what I mean? He's like shat all over some bands and some albums that I love, but it's just him giving his opinion. But he does it in a way.
I think it's interesting to hear from someone else's perspective.
Yeah, he does it in a way that to me seems well thought out and educated. Whereas a lot of people these days feel that you can just dismiss things without any kind of thought behind it. You can just be like, "Oh, that's just shit." Why? Because it just is. Whereas he seems
the New York Monkey song got released a couple of years back. Remember the shitstorm that kicked off on Twitter for that? Like,
what one?
Tranquility Base.
Oh, aye, but like, because what there seemed to be, which I noticed about that, is it came out and a lot of people who had, I don't know, maybe
jumped on it
AM kind of went, aye, this is shite, and then after like 3 months we're all going, oh no, this is the greatest thing ever made. Whereas we were all like, when it first came out, look, this is amazing, this is.
I remember the first time I put it on and listened to it, I'm like, this is fucking mental.
Like, I listened to it, I remember I got a leak of the album before it came out and I listened to it all the way through it, and
I was the same. I got it on the Wednesday night. Yeah.
First listen, I was like, oh, I don't know what I make of that. That's threw me right. I see, especially all the kind of weird placements of the rhythm and stuff. However, it was a wee bit offbeat in some of the songs. I was like, oh, that was weird. Then I played it through again and again and again and again and again.
It was that tune 4 out of 5 that got me straight away.
That was the one that we were pure hooked on.
It makes sense why that was the lead single, man.
It does, man. It just gets you right away. It's one of those ones you're on board with, even if you don't like the rest of the album. Whereas for me, I get addicted to different songs now. So
the start of that album though, with the drums, when it just comes in like, and then he starts like singing like high, like. It was so out there, but it was like I was hoping for a change up and something different. I didn't know what they were going to do, but I'm so glad they did, because they made 5 guitar rock albums. It's good for them. There's still elements of that in there. Do you know what I mean? You've got like She Looks Like Fun, which to me sounds like a kind of Arctic Monkeys, like kind of Beatlesy song. You know what I mean? Like lyrically and all that. It's still. Their cover of that Beatles tune at the Olympics as well.
Oh, they done Come Together, didn't they? Aye, they done. I really like him. I really like Alex Turner and. Miles Kane doing Mooney's Daydream by David Bowie. They done it at
From
Glasgow.
is it Tea in the Park?
Aye, that Tea in the Park as well, mate. Aye, that's class. Love that. It's a great song, but it's
That was
cool seeing
Question After He Died as well, I think, wasn't it? Is that what they did?
Aye, it was. And I see the thing with David Bowie is that I loved him as an artist. Thought he was a great artist, but I don't really listen to a lot of his music. I mean, for me, it's mostly just Ziggy Stardust. That's really the only thing that I listen to the most. I've tried to kind of delve into the rest of it. I like Black Star. I think Black Star's like
very interesting.
It's very interesting, mate. Definitely, especially as an ending piece to his life and to his music.
Me and Jam were speaking about it just to where it all kind of figured out. And
Aye,
knew what was happening, knew what was coming.
You don't, mate. You don't, and it's very deep. And it's a guy that was very deeply into the whole spiritual and occult side of reality.
I mean, it's interesting to hear an album from someone who knows they're gonna die, so they make an album about dying.
Totally, and it was almost like kind of like it doesn't sound like any of the rest of his music, but it almost sums all the rest of it up. Do you know what I mean? And I've barely dipped my toes in the water with that album. I've only listened to it. I listened to a wee bit when it came out. I've tried to get
pretty
it
intense.
It's pretty intense, mate. It is pretty intense. It is fucking intense. I mean, it's what the concepts it's dealing with. It's got to be intense. But no, I think even just I love the video of him talking to Paxman about the internet. I think that is one of the best things ever.
When was that? What year was that from?
It was like 1999 or something, man. It was like right on the cusp. And he already had like his own like kind of server and that set up, and just the way that
he's just getting to talk about Paxman's trying to write it off, and he's trying to throw him off, but you could just tell that he's so passionate, and to be able to spot that from that far away, man, and see that was coming, bleeds into his music as well.
No, totally.
Do you think there's anyone else like that now at the moment kicking about? Do you think there could be someone who could have a career that's 50 years long now? Because it almost feels like the way that it's going, it's so instantaneous, and you want new stuff straight away.
Yeah, man.
I don't feel like there's as much like seeing the way that like music now feels like with industry, the way the industry works, it definitely feels like it's a kind of more of a pal system where people help each other in the industry, and people that kind of maybe benefit from knowing people in the industry already seem to succeed more than people that kind of come from, at least like, it doesn't really matter what kind of background you come from, but at least come from like you're doing it yourself and just doing it with your pals, and you don't really know anybody in the industry. It seems to be a lot harder to break in regardless of what genre you're in. It seems a lot harder to break in that way than it would have been in the past, where a lot of bands, a lot of artists were kind of just normal people. People now are kind of born into it. Like, even you talk about people like Billie Eilish, like, she seems to me like someone who has been born to do something like that. Like, her whole family play music and they're all producers or actors or whatever.
My brother's a really interesting guy as well.
Yeah, so like it seems like people like that, like, they'll always, you're kind of like, it's too big to fail, but it's probably not going to fail. You're going to get every opportunity, and then as soon as you're clicked in, that's it, everything's going to fall into place. Whereas it feels like you need to kind of work that wee bit harder when you don't necessarily know the people in the industry. When they don't know you, all they've got is like
your name on a sheet of paper.
Name on a sheet of paper, and they maybe speak to your manager, or they listen to your music. But there's so much out there. I think it's a very hard thing to break into now. If you don't have at least a lot of money,
some management in back behind.
Aye, man, you need money. I mean, I was watching a Clash documentary last night, and it was showing you them when they very first started. They didn't even have a drummer yet, and they were asking them like, how do you get by? And they were like, oh well, we get paid £60 for the gig. The PA costs £55. Like, you do the math, you know what I mean? Then Joe
It's even worse now.
Joe Strummer's like, I buy a pack of strings every night as well, so like work that out. And they're like, how do you afford to get anywhere? He's like, every time we need to do something, our manager needs to put his hand in his pocket. Now, I wish that was us, do you know what I mean? That would have been class if that was us when we started, but we didn't have a manager that like came in and gave us all our money. Like, I mean, we had to make our own money.
When did Jim start managing you?
Well, Jim came in after Dimitri came out, but Jim's never
put his
money.
Well, he's giving you his flat.
He's giving us his flat, but he doesn't ask for any money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
He doesn't ask for any money, neither does Chris, and it's because they know that we won't waste it. We don't waste. We've never wasted our money we've made. We've always reinvested it in the band. It's a business, so we're not. We're sensible that way. We've always been sensible that way because we realise that putting it in, we're going to get it back eventually.
How have things changed since you've been like on 7 West? Like, in terms of like the run of the band and the management.
I think we were lucky with the fact that we've got David and Rab primarily, that they're very organised people anyway, so they're very, I don't know what the word would be for it, very anal, I guess. They're very particular about details, so it works in our benefit that way. And we could have self-managed, but Jim again just adds another dynamic to it, because he has to be the manager, he has to be the person that's out with the group, that's able to like bring things together sometimes.
A lot of experience as well.
Aye, man, that's what they both have. They both have, and they both are able to use that in different ways. Like with Chris as well, he's actually really good with his people skills in terms of how he coordinates it. Sometimes it would maybe take him to bring everything together rather than Jim. But we're lucky that we've got quite a big team around us. Dion as well. We've got the lawyers and stuff. There's a lot of people that are involved with it. The more people that we've always been serious about having people involved that are serious, the same way we are, that believe in us as much as we believe in ourselves. But we're lucky that there's a lot of stuff. I'll tell you one thing: we're at least able to focus more on playing in the band and writing now than we were before Jim and stuff came on. Right, even like there's a lot more focus on that, which is good to take that with us. So in terms of the way we run it, in terms of how we run it as a business with money and stuff, like we're lucky now that we're starting to make a bit where we can invest
like
in
a
good
band
things.
account and stuff.
Yeah, we've got like a band account, and like the reality is now we're travelling away to Europe and America sometimes, so you need to make a bit of money. I mean, we got a bloody shock when we went to South by Southwest because it was
how expensive it all.
Oh mate, honestly, and it's like you need to tip everybody as well. So
you're
going
like 15% on top, yeah.
You're going like $7-8 on a drink already. Brexit's basically got it so you've got like you're getting a pound for $1. You know what I mean? You used to get like nearly $2 to a pound about 30 years ago, but now like you're doing that and then tipping every single time.
Do you remember when you were tipping the guy and he stopped serving?
Well, no, it wasn't because what happened was. We were out with Ascot and stuff, so there was all yours and all Ascot, and everybody ordered a drink before I did. Every person had went up before I got to order my drink because I was my curious. Not one of them tipped the guy. Not one of them tipped him. So by the time I got to the guy,
to be fair, it's because we were paying on card, right? It's because we were paying on card. And we didn't know apparently you can sign the receipt and tip on that. None of us knew that. You pay on card.
Just tap contactless. Being out in this wee screen thing, you need to tap and add a tip on manually. So the guys at the same time as what he's saying, the guys flipped the screen on you and being like. Tip, and none of them tipped him. So by the time it got to me, he wasn't even serving me for ages, and I eventually was like to the guy, I didn't want to click my fingers in it, but I was like, I was only one done.
I've been standing for like 10 minutes.
Can you serve me please? And he's like, no. He's like, and I was like, is that because they never like tipped you? And the guy was like, you need to go downstairs. I'm not serving you up here. I was like, no bother. So I went downstairs, up to the bar. Guys, it's a private function down here. Can't you buy it? You need to go upstairs. I was like, my guy upstairs just sent me downstairs. So I back up to the guy and I gave him the tip, and it wasn't even like a thank you, like oh you're a good one. It was just I expected that, you should have gave me that. And I'm like, mate, I'm running out of cash. I've got no money. If I'm tipping every drink
I can't be afford it.
At the same time, maybe we shouldn't have just been buying drink all day. Do you know what I mean? Like when we were a couple, because the thing is, the free pour, the drinks are there anyway, so you only need like about one or two. You don't need any more than that.
We just did it in moderation, man.
But it just kind of felt like it was roasting. It was like a bit like a holiday after a while. But
how's your attitude changed toward it? Because obviously you're ready to go across the second time.
Yeah, so we're definitely going this time to.
Your ambitions must be a bit different. It's not just about the experience now. You've got to try and achieve something.
We're lucky to see with the label and stuff, and the way that we're able to manage ourselves. We don't really need a lot of things that people go to South by for specifically, but we've realised now there is a few things that we would like. That if we go there with that intention, then it shouldn't be too hard to achieve. What we realised last year was, the sets were good. We went great. Played to 2 busy rooms as well, but we realised it could have been a lot better.
What did you British Embassy last year?
Done British Embassy last year, which is like, it's one of those ones where you're standing, there's strangers in the room, but the reality is that you're standing in front of like at least 50% of the people in the room are like, they're either for like guitar companies, labels, any kind of raw aspect of being in the music industry. There's a lot of people that go there for that reason specifically. You realise how important it is. So we're going back this year with the idea that it will be to finalise all these things and make sure that we might go back, you never know, but just to make sure this time we cement it, and anything that we didn't do properly last year we'll definitely do properly this year. But it just, when you're over there and you're with your pals and all that, especially because it was us in Glasgow, and it was just like, we were all just like, oh, this is mental, we're in America, how are we here, how are us two here, starting off playing Priory and broadcast and all that, and we're in America now. It's just crazy.
Is it Austin?
It's Austin, aye.
It's a cool city.
And you're walking about in places, and because we've got the bands and that on, so you're walking in and you're maybe getting a bit of pizza or whatever, and you're standing next to like, I don't know, like maybe I'm on the Sniffers are cutting about, or like
the guy from Shame or something.
The guy from Shame, or like I've seen Sam Fender just cutting about. Like we went to see, we were at the Thrasher, so there's all these different events on. So we went to the Thrasher event, so there's like a big skate ramp and all that, and we're sitting watching Fontaines DC, and Sam Fender's standing right in front of me, and he's singing all the lyrics to every single song. I was like, obviously he likes Fontaines, but I would just really imagined him there at Fontaines DC, pure singing all the words.
Was he playing at South by last year?
Sam Fender, I done the British Music MC. I was going to go see him, but I ended up like getting my wires crossed.
You're a big fan of some Fender.
Aye, I do like his tunes, man. I think he's a guy that really knows. He's a guy that seems to me like he really does have things to write about. I like the subjects of his songs. I mean, at the same time, I think he talks about like being a really big Bruce Springsteen fan. I think a lot of people wouldn't connect that with his music, but I can hear a lot of that in the music. Definitely.
When I saw him, he covered Springsteen, yeah.
There's definitely a lot in his music. His voice is amazing as well. We've seen him at Transmit, but it's funny if you watch the Transmit video, his set, you can see us standing in the background because we're standing like a good 20 yards behind. We were like in the crowd, but we were standing about 20 feet away from the crowd because at that point it was like at Transmit, do that way it's like sometimes people recognise us in Priory and that, but see when it's like you're at Transmit, it's
everyone knows you.
Different level, mate. People are like either turning around and like craning on the next room when you're walking by, or it's like I don't know, man. They just come right up. There was a guy who came up when we were watching Sam Fender that said something to that.
When did you first start picking up on that? Folk noticing you?
It was mostly in Priory at the beginning. When it was mostly people that you kind of like. It's not like they recognise you in a way that's like, oh, you're in the Dunts. It's more like, oh, you're in the Dunts, but I'm pals with all the people for Ascot, or I'm pals with the boys for the Mo. So everybody kind of knows each other. And then after a wee while, it's like. It's just in the right kind of times and places. It's almost, if it's after a gig that we've done, then chances of us bumping into somebody that's either been at the gig that night or wants to talk to us, it's like pretty high, and we always go there and make an effort with people.
You've never had any horror encounters, have you? Yeah.
Oh no, totally, mate. Honest.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like you get people that are just like put it this way, like for somebody to come up to you and talk to you, they're either really confident or they're
a dick.
They're a dick, or like a bit lippy, or a bit like. You know what I mean? There's that kind of like some people put this barrier up. They go, I want to go talk to them, but I'm not going to because what if it just goes down weird? Or there's a bit of anxiety. A lot of people just don't have that. So if the anxiety's not there, then it's either because they're really confident or because they're up to something. Do you know what I mean? They're up to something. But
have you ever approached anyone?
I have approached people. I made a point of doing it at Transmit at South by because it's on networking anyway, man. So you just try and get in people's ears and stuff. Guy from Vagabond Boys, met that guy three times.
That guy with the big belly?
I met him but the thing is, I met him 3 times, and it's like, I met him the first time, and then I met him again Friday, and I said to him, I don't think he remembered me, and then I seen him in France again, and again, I don't think he remembered us, so. But I mean, he meets lots of people, but at the same time, when we met him and spoke to him South by, he was lovely. He was a lovely, lovely guy. He was really nice, because I think it kind of works in your favour when you get the past and the bands and stuff on. Everybody knows you're in a band. But if I seen him there, I knew that I liked, I'd make a point. The only one I did name was Sam Fender, because he was surrounded by about like 15 people at that point already. But I seen like the guys with Boy Azuga, stopped them and spoke to them. Just always like making a point if I see people.
He's quite a distinctive looking guy as well.
They're both quite like, I thought like one of the guys is like, no offense to the guy, but he's like quite like shorter.
Is that the guy with
the bass player? And I thought the singer was tall, really tall, because the bass player was kind of small. But the bass player was like the guitar section was my height, and then the bass player was even smaller. But I think they got freaked out because I was like, they didn't know. I don't think they knew who the Dunts were or whatever. But I think they get freaked out if somebody recognised them. I don't think like couldn't have been that common a thing. At least.
How big are Boy Azuga? Because they're probably like me and my pals from back home, like one of their favourite bands, one of my favourite bands.
I love them. I think they're great. But I don't know. I mean, if you're at South by, there's at least you're known in the music industry, but you maybe haven't had the proper exposures yet. But I was like, oh, I love your tunes and that. I mean, I was like, I'm in a band, but I wasn't gonna try and make a big thing about it. But it was even people you seen in bands you didn't know, you still kind of wanted to try and talk to you. There was so many acts we seen that were good. I don't think there was like any bands I seen I didn't enjoy, even just random bands, but there was so many to see. Seen Fontaine's like about 4 or 5 times or something.
I've still not seen them.
Oh man, it was like we probably get to the point where it was like probably gonna see them again, and we were like, there's not even any point seeing them again because I've already seen them about 5 times. But they were great, like they were amazing.
Have they not finished writing the second album? Or they are writing?
Apparently
it's very Beach Boys inspired, which I'm quite intrigued by.
That would be interesting. They seem to be a band that does have a lot of the. As much as they stand out and have their own sound, I would say that they definitely have a lot of these kind of classic influences.
What was that song they finished their first record on? It's very kind of pogsy.
Oh, the kind of like Dirty Old Town kind of one. Is it Roy's song or is it Roy's tune or something?
Roy's tune's a bit like that. I was thinking the one they ended on, but I can't remember what it's called.
But the energy, like I just think they have like a lot of like, you wouldn't instantly go, oh, they're like Oasis or the Beatles or any other band like that, but you know that it's in.
You can hear it
in their blood, do you know what I mean? It's in their DNA somewhere, but they've also got such a strong Irish influence as well. So
they're a very Irish band.
Yeah. Whereas we're quite a Glaswegian band in terms of the way that the things that we write about, but no in terms of the way it sounds. I don't think so anyway. I feel like it has more of a, I don't know, maybe a stateside kind of sound the way we sing, but that's just because I don't like singing in a Scottish accent. I think it sounds cringy when I do it. Some people can do it well, some people cannot do it well. But it's like, for me, it just doesn't come out naturally. It comes out a lot more naturally doing well, what is my singing voice? Do you know what I mean? That's I've tried. Tommy works. Tommy's alright because Tommy's just me. Just kind of, I'm allowed to just do whatever I want. And same with Rab, we can just talk it and just shout it. And it is Scottish. It's just so rooted in Scotland. That tune. It's such a Glaswegian kind of.
I'm interested by like you're at a point now where you're way to play SWG3 to like 1,300 folk.
Yeah.
When you played the I should ask, how was the Barras gig back at Tenement Trail?
Wow, like that was one of the ones we get asked.
That must be one of the bucket lists.
The night before, right? So Rab texts me like, "Colin, can I phone you?" And I'm like, "Why would they not just message me?" I was like, "Somebody's died or something bad. Something really bad has happened." So he was like, "Oh, let me phone you." And then as soon as I picked the phone, he was like, "Do you want to play the Barras?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "The Mora," and I was like, "No way."
Did someone drop out, or why did?
It was Dreamlife dropped out, so they had to fill us in.
Illness or something now.
Not a clue, man. I think it might have been something to do with logistics, maybe travelling or something.
So you swapped in on the day of?
So man, and it was literally the day before, so that way had we been booked to do it for ages, it would have been all the stress and worrying and all the same way it was for like Transmit, because that's the reality. You build up, see, especially when you feel you've got something like, it's alright going out there, like say nobody knows who you are, right? Say you're a band that's got it really lucky and you've been put on Transmit, nobody knows who you are. You get that opportunity to just go out there and be happy and if no pressure on you. See, once you're a band that's built up to Transmit and everybody's wanting you to play Transmit and everybody's so desperate for you there, it's your fans, you feel that immense pressure on top of you to go, I don't want to fuck this up. If I fuck this up, then I've let them down. But with that, there was no time, so it was like, it felt like Rab told me that, I went to bed, I woke up in the morning, I got all my stuff ready and we went straight down to the Barras to load in, and then we were sitting in there all day, and I think it was father son we were sound checking as well. So we
good band.
Mate, we were a great band. I'll tell you what, we seen them at South by, they were great, and we met the guy, the singer
Ross Layton, yeah.
Aye, lovely guy as well, man. He had so much time just to kind of sit down and talk to us.
He reminds me a bit of Simon Neil, that kind of just humble, down to earth.
He is
character.
Really, man. He is. I think he already knew Rascal and stuff anyway, so I think we had kind of in there, but he was already sitting with them and talking to him. But he was a lovely guy. I think we spoke to the guitarist as well. I think he was a touring guitarist. He was like, I was in the British Music MC, and he turned to me and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And it was the first time I'd heard like a Glaswegian accent for a wee bit probably that day, because you do end up like, it's quite a big place, but you end up just bumping into everybody that's there. Like I guess there's people that go every year, but it was mad times. It was good. Yeah.
I sidetracked myself from my original question. The original question was going to be, because I'm interested, because now that you're at this level, if you had to write an autobiography, you know, it what like self-proclaimed council punk, me the Dunts and all that. Where about do you begin that? Do you think? What point do you think it starts to get exciting when you start that off?
I just think it's for now we've kind of talked about how like our songs we don't try and go down the general formula of writing songs like love songs or writing songs that are just about like hedonism and I don't know, being mad at that. But I feel like there's definitely that thing now where when we're tackling these subjects we really need to think about it, because like talking about beef the scheme and all that, it's like I wouldn't make songs being like, oh, I mean you're here in the house, when you see the kind of area I'm living in, but it's like I know I'm no like, I can't pretend to be pure. It's not just how you get like rappers and rap music, they're like, oh, I'm still like a gangster, I'm still doing
it's like that Enemy,
that.
You know, that first album they're writing about that, and then he gets the fifth one. They made a lot of money and they're still trying to write
like,
about the same
how can you do
thing.
that? And it's the same with Arctic Monkeys as well. With their first album, I was like, oh, I don't know why they didn't just do what they done in the first album, so because it only is relevant then. So if there's a feeling of,
he lives in LA in a fucking penthouse, he can't write a song about drinking tinnies in a park.
He may as well write songs about having a taqueria on a lunar base. You know what I mean? He may as well. That's what he may as well get into. But there's definitely that feeling now where it's like, if it was like about to start, we'd be kind of well past all that stuff. Like I think there's still plenty for us to get out in terms of that. There's a lot of things that we need to. You need to do that, especially if you're a musician. You need to have that cathartic process where I've done it. You know what I mean? There's songs I've wrote. There's elements here in like things like Marrow, and there's elements in songs that we're going to bring out where it's I'm taking things in my life that have really really affected me and on a deep emotional level, and I'm able to then put that into a song so I can then do something positive with it.
Do you remember when you first found that out, that music could be cathartic? You kind of first came to that realisation?
Yeah, I feel like at least when I started singing more, I felt that. I started to feel like when I started writing songs about, I mean, but we've all went quite introspective recently, and I think it's because we've all been in a kind of, at one point or another, been in a dark place and tried to come back for that. So a lot of our songs are tinged with that kind of message now, and it's only because it's what we've just been through. So what you're talking about in terms of, we've wrote from maybe a kind of past perspective before and things that were present, and now it's like again we're kind of getting out these things that we've had kind of budging away with ourselves, but we're now able to turn it into something productive. That's what we're always trying to do, is take these things that have happened if you're going to write about yourself and make it productive and make it something that you can be proud of and kind of wash your hands of it after you've done so. But I think what we'll get now is the more opportunities we get, hopefully, and the more we get in about this whole thing, hopefully there's the more that we can write about. So I'd love it if, I don't know, if we did get the right exposure and we start playing all the world and stuff. I'd just like to take, I'm already kind of seeking inspiration in a lot of places, but I think it can only, the more we get into this, the more we're going to be able to, the more stuff we're going to create, I feel, and the more subjects we'll want to tackle.
Yeah, I think that's quite a nice note to wrap this up on. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
No worries, man.
I would plug your SWG3 show, but it's already sold out.
Yeah, so if you want a ticket, you can buy it for twice the price on a resale website, or you can maybe try and not get scammed on Twitter or something.